Hello, everybody. This is Joshua Hatton with the One Nation Under Whisky podcast. I'm joined today by not just one person, but by two people this day. I'm joined by the one, Jason Neal, Patrick Harris, Johnston Yellen.
G'day.
Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Feliz Navidad.
Philippe Penavon.
This guy gets it.
And the one and only, the inimitable Jessica Rabbit Lomas. Welcome, Jess.
I was just holding for applause. Why, thank you. Thank you very much.
I like that you do that. Every once in a while, you give me suggestions. It's like, can you make sure that you, make my voice echo here? Or, the global shipping logistics thing. So you give me, little pointers on where to put bits of audio. So I'll get some applause in there for you.
It's because I listen to too many podcasts where they put sound effects in. It's also actually really a hangover from being a child. When I got to secondary school, in our music class, they used to have these, once a month, they used to get out these Casio keyboard things.
Yes.
One year, somebody donated a whole bunch of them, and they all had sound effect buttons, which instantly, when you're a 12-year-old boy, is a thing you can't stop just messing with. And our teacher used to go absolutely bizarre. I feel very sorry for. Now as a grown up, the teacher probably was my age, but people were like, "Oh my god, he's so old," complaining about these buttons. But the worst one was there was a button that said DJ, and then it changed all the keys into different drum beat sound effects.
Oh yeah, nice.
So every so often the class would go quiet, and then it would go DJ, and then somebody would, and that was instant detention, and you weren't allowed back into keyboard class. So I just love all these sound effects.
My favorite part about that is you led with, as a kid with a hangover. It sounded like you got a hangover as a child. Yeah.
Oh, very, very much. When you worked down the mines like you did when I was growing up, you had to have a good strong stout for breakfast, something to get you going. And if you'd had one too many of the evil gins, then DJ music class the next morning, terrible. Really difficult.
Wow. All our Yorkshire listeners are nodding their heads while nursing their daily hangover.
So, here we are, lady and gent. This is season 7, year-end episode, where, what do we discuss? I know we it's funny, this is the 7th year doing it, and I always forget all the things we do. So I know that we talk about what our favorite single cask nation whiskey is.
Indeed.
Right?
Indubitably.
And that is, US release or rest of the world release. Mm-hmm. We talk about our favorite non-SCN whiskey.
All of this is true.
Mm-hmm.
And then our favorite our favorite One Nation Under Whisky episode or interview. Is there anything beyond that we discuss?
That's it. I was thinking this morning that in our general conversation, I'd be intrigued at your favorite event that you either attended or poured at in 2023.
Oh, that's interesting. Can I add one other thing? So, favorite event. Mm-hmm. I'm going to add, and this may be controversial, it may not be, but I would like us to add a distillery that has turned your head this year. Now, they don't necessarily had to have, been your favorite pour, but whether they're doing something, they've had a number of releases, whatever, just a distillery that's...
I already have an answer, and it's brilliant because you've pulled my answer from one category that I was shoehorning it into giving my answer its own category. So thank you, Joshua. Thank you this day. This is a beautiful Christmas gift.
I'm worried
I appreciate it.
I'm worried that you two just not only helped each other when I am very much underprepared for this episode, and also you have created a complete list. Stop that immediately.
Hey, there we go. There must be something else we cover that we're never going to remember, and we're just going to move along with this episode. Who knows if we're going to remember to return to the two things we've just added in the beginning of this episode.
I'm writing a list. I'm going to check it twice.
There's a list.
Yeah,
So we have our SCN pour, our favorite non-SCN whiskey, our favorite episode, our favorite event, and the distillery that has wowed you the most this year.
Excellent.
And I'm just going to call that note a distillery wow.
And inspired by Extra Extra, we're going to get this done in a tight 35.
Last year was nearly 4 hours. Are you guys ready for this?
Oh
No,
my God.
no, the audience is not ready for that. This is going to be regulation length. There's no extra overtimes here.
I really enjoy this. I've had this discussion 2 or 3 times of very recent, that I love that our American audience, hello American audience, really enjoy how long these podcasts are. And I've speculated with a few people that it's to do with you guys drive stupid long distances. And so therefore it's like a nice continuum thing to have with you. Whereas people on my side of the pond are like, we don't often drive accidentally to Manchester. Could you make the podcast shorter, please? We actually only wanted to go as far as Carlisle, but we couldn't stop because the episode hadn't finished. But I think for Christmas, this could work because, I don't know about you, but over Christmas, I definitely get to periods where I've had enough of the farm and I have to leave the house. You just pop the podcast on, do a little walk around the village to probably one of the several pubs in my village. Have a little pint, pop your headphones back on, walk home, feeling a lot better about everything. So I think this could work. This time of year may work for this.
Public service.
So 5 hours, guys. That's what we're in. 5.
I tried to head you off in the past there.
Is this why we're so popular in like down there? Because don't the Australians drive extra long distances? I feel like they do as well.
I feel they do very, very long, 3 days in a straight line type driving. I'm sure I've seen a TV show with a comedian called Ross Noble years ago did like a trip around Australia, and I'm sure there's a bit where for like 2 days he's just driving on this same road, not turning, just going. Maybe I've imagined that, but I'm pretty sure I haven't. I think Australia is much bigger than we think it is. It's just because it's all the way over there. Like you guys with your all the way over there driving.
All right, let's get something in our glasses.
Yes, please.
So
I haven't poured yet.
What are we Are we pouring one of our favorites, or are we just pouring a dram?
So I think we should open the category with our first individual pour, right? Let's start talking, because we've got 3 of us going through 5 categories. So I think we should probably make a start.
Okay. So the question then becomes, is this our favorite non-SCN whiskey of the year or our favorite SCN whiskey of the year?
I personally am going to choose my SCN, but I'd be perfectly happy if each of you wanted to zag while I am zigging.
I think we should follow suit. I think we should stick within our categories.
Let's line it up.
Okay.
Line it up.
Okay. Normally I would want to go with favorite interview first or favorite episode, but I really want to get something else.
Oh, you know
Really
what?
thirsty.
Let's do that. Let's just pour our favorite SCN, and then talk about our favorite interview first. While we're enjoying that pour.
All right, and then we'll circle back to what we were actually drinking while we're discussing interview.
Yeah, because I like this. That's getting a little pour. It's in my glass.
I'm getting a pour in here.
Oh, Jess, you've got a handsome pour in your glass there.
I was about to page HR there. got a little bit anxious.
Ooh, Jess, that's a real handsome
Anyway,
whiskey
Jason.
you got in your glass.
Okay.
All right. Who wants to lead? I absolutely. I said this in last week's extra, but or maybe in the last episode of One Nation Under Whisky. Who knows when anything is said ever? And so I'd said the favorite episode of One Nation Under Whisky is such a difficult pick because we don't put in any fillers. There's no interview where we say, well, that was bottom of the barrel, right? Don't need to worry about that one again, right? We always aim for a primo guest who will elevate the whiskey conversation, and then we get to the end of the year and we say, okay, now who was the best of all those terrific people? And so going back through season 7 and into the end of season 6, because we do this by calendar year.
Oh, shit, that's right. Oh, I may need to relook.
So as I'm going through the calendar year, I'm thinking, yeah, that was a great opportunity to talk to that friend or those friends, and that was a great opportunity to talk to a distillery that I'd wanted to talk to for a while, and there's a producer, and there's someone who mashes or malts. You know, it really was a year of highlights, but I have put my own feet to the fire. I have got Germaline on my wounds right now, and I have a selection, and I'm not going to announce it right away. I'm going to give the floor over to one of you two.
Could you though just really quickly let our American listeners know what Germaline is, because it sounds like you've got an infection.
Ointment, yes, antiseptic ointment. Okay. That is a famous tasting note in things like good lichigs.
It's like a root beer kind of.
It has a definite sassafras kind of quality to it.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that, Jess? Put the Germaline next to the root beer Jelly Belly?
Wow. No, because I don't commonly ingest Germaline. It does. I have got a strange. That was definitely my granny's remedy to anything. Was Germaline. It's that I imagine there's a good portion of people listening who's never seen it. It's this like really thick, and it's kind of like a really odd pink color. I don't know. They obviously color it. I think it's got some sort of zinc oxide in it, which is what makes it that color. Because calamine lotion is the same thing. So yeah, they're very like old school remedies for minor ailments. That's what I'm.
Yep, I definitely grew up in a Germaline family.
Germaline.
Got a headache? Rub some Germaline on your forehead.
We used to just put squirrels on our feet.
Oh.
That would cure you. Just like, you got rheumatism? Just wrap a couple squirrels around your feet. And
I forgot you grew up in West Virginia.
Mountain Mama. All right, listen. So why not? I think it's likely the proper thing to do, the gentlemanly thing to do, to let ladies go first. So Jess, what would your favorite episode?
So you mean I can already start with the patented Joshua Hatton incomplete list of things that I've liked? I really had a long, hard think about this. It's not straight off the bat. I'm going to eliminate the episodes I was in because I think that's very unfair. Whilst I had a great time recording and chatting when we chatted auctions, I had a ton of fun when we were at Westland. So if I was not in that episode, I probably would have made that my favourite. But I was, so sorry guys, that one's out. I obviously really enjoyed listening to, and could listen to endlessly, Bill Thomas talking all things with you, Jason. That was great. I really enjoyed listening to him.
Yep.
Cheers.
One of these days I will make it to Jack Rose and stay seated there drinking everything until I have got just as great an interview out of him. But I think, and you two, I can already feel you rolling your eyes, so... I think in the spirit of all things Yorkshire, I think my favourite episode was listening to you talking to David Thompson.
Hey, all right.
Awesome.
I loved it because it had the right balance of agricultural nerdy, whilst also talking about whiskey and obviously about spirit of Yorkshire. And I just think he's a very charming man to listen to, explaining maybe a bit of the whiskey industry that we don't really think about too much. So that was definitely, I really, really enjoyed that. And I know that was quite a way back in the year, and that's not to say that anything that followed it didn't also pique my interest.
Right. Yeah. Right.
These are the kinds of phrases I say every time we run a tasting, and I bully people into picking just one dram. And then what you get is, well, I didn't hate it. Even though it's in fifth, it was very good. Yes, I know. But you asked for the favourite. So that, I think,
so tough.
Is my vote. Although I'm sure whatever you two give me, I'll be like, oh, maybe. But I think, no one's going to do me for staying true to Yorkshire, and not just as that, because it was a really great interview, and I really enjoyed listening to you guys chatting. So there's my vote.
Awesome.
Submitted.
Cheers. Final answer.
Final answer.
I like the.
All right, Joshua.
It's funny. So I had two runners up, and
Now Jess has just rolled her eyes.
I had 25 runners up.
That's what I've got.
and the episode with David Thompson was in that because of the very same reasons you mentioned. It was this mixture of great agriculture discussion that we had sort of committed ourselves to focusing on. And while the interview was great, it had a special spot in my heart too, because it was right around the time I spent about a week with him or so here in the US, and just getting to know him as a person was really special. So it was just having that extra connectivity to that.
Nice.
So
no arguments here.
Yep. Geez, and the Susanna Skyver Barton episode was really. I only looked at that now because Jason, you reminded me. Don't forget, we're talking calendar year, not season. So I went to season 6, whatever. Our first January episode. I'm like, oh, that episode, Susanna's just fucking brilliant. But
I want the Jeopardy music playing during that intro.
I tell you, my favorite one it's a bittersweet one, and it was our episode with Matt Hoffman. Because Matt is someone that we had been talking with for 10 years, basically, right? But before we started more than 10 years, we were bloggers at the time. And as we were thinking about starting a company, having interviewed them for our blogs and saying, would you be interested in selling whiskey to us if we started this company? And, our history goes back so far, and having this discussion with him where they, after a number of years, finally realized their own peated project. Like, he saw something from beginning to end, all the way through, and shortly thereafter, announces his leaving the distillery, and it was this, odd closure to that relationship. Not that the relationship has ended, but you know what I mean.
Not the slightest.
So I actually went back to listen to that, and it's just, I love our conversations with Matt, whether it's a serious one like that, or the April Fool's conversations that we've had with him and with Steve, and just. We hit it off so well, and Westland is so near and dear to my heart. So yeah, it's got to be.
But only Joshua's.
What's that?
Yeah, not us.
But only Joshua's.
Yeah, only my
near
heart.
and dear
only
to my
But
heart.
Jess,
Strong.
Jess doesn't even like Westland.
She's never heard of it.
Westland. Have you heard of that?
Did they make whiskey in America that's not in Kentucky? Is that
It can't be
You're
bourbon
making me
because
flush,
it's not made
Jess.
in Kentucky. It must be something else.
That's genuinely, when I came to the US in, what month are we on? November? They asked me where I was coming, and he genuinely said to me, they make whiskey outside of Kentucky. And I said, yes, sir. Famously in Tennessee, too. And he went, oh, yeah.
This was immigration?
Yeah.
There you go.
But he was very worried that I had, and I've thought about it a lot, very worried that I had paraphernalia on me when he asked me why I was coming to the US. And then I said, oh, we're doing a podcast. And he said, oh, and what is it you think you're going to be doing on this podcast? And I inadvertently, because I panicked, I said, trying to be funny? And he didn't smile. So I'm amazed I got let in the country. With my
what paraphernalia do you think they
that's
thought?
what I'm curious about. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he didn't mean that
Mary
word.
Jane?
So what you need for a podcast? And I said, oh, well, I'm working with an American company, so I don't have any equipment with me. It's just me coming with a suitcase. And he said, oh.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm coming to record. Here's the recording equipment. I don't have any. Yeah. I could see that getting into a little bit of trouble for you. But thank goodness you made it in, and thank goodness you were part of the recording.
Oh my gosh, yep.
Do you think he listened? Do you think he got to see whether or not he thought I was funny?
I was going to say, you should have got that. You should have got that guy's email address and sent him a link to the episode and said, "Who's funny now?"
Maybe he put me in a file. He wouldn't let me back in.
I thought I was listening to a podcast, but I'm listening to a podcast? Like, who are these people?
She lied. Track her down.
She lied.
Cancel her passport.
I have her email address. All right. Well, those are very worthy choices. Mm-hmm. I have decided to go the selfish route, Jess. But it is also unselfish in the same moment.
All right.
Which just feels so wonderful and so perfect. And so I have chosen an episode that I was not in my usual seat for. And Jessica Rabbit Lomas was in my seat instead. This is an interview that I chased, or I didn't even chase, I hoped for a number of years. And then through Andrew Miller, the Champagne of People, I received an introduction to Thad Vogler, who wrote By the Smoke and the Smell. And I got to be in San Francisco. I got to be at Bar Agricole. I got to be brought an oat milk latte by the man himself to our interview from a coffee shop that his friend owns down the street. And we got to sit just one-on-one in a silent restaurant, just talking about the book, talking about the industry, talking about San Francisco. And I had an absolute blast. And Thad and I have continued to be friends since and occasionally text back and forth. And the episode dropped the day after my birthday and the day before Jess's birthday.
That's very true.
How often do you and I, Jess, get to talk about our end of June birthdays, living and working with these two early December jamokes?
Not enough. I think for 2024 we can start a campaign to make the end of June very important. I think we should. There's nothing else happening. Everybody's finished from the fesh. Everybody's gone home. This weather for most people is starting to get a bit nice. Kids are starting to think about being off school. I think it's just a great time of year. I really think the beginning of December is very heavily overrated.
Yeah, heavily.
The thing
heavily.
is...
This is great. We're totally ganging up now because there's two of us and only one of these early December birthdays.
But no one's going to remember, like... People remember us because of the world famous, remember the 6th of December, right? Everybody knows that. So, like, remember the 27th or 29th of June. Like, that doesn't really, roll off the tongue.
But we're giving you an option. We're giving you a long weekend. You're just providing a 24-hour one and done. Gone.
I also like you, Joshua, and Jess, and naming episodes that she couldn't name, got to name some episodes. I do want to give a special thanks to Susanna.
Yeah.
Because I think her year in preview really gave us topics on which to hang our hats and nail our précis for season 7. And we did go down the path of talking more agriculture, and David Thompson is definitely up there for me.
Oh yeah.
So are the Onmac sisters.
For sure.
So as we spoke to one maltster off the record, we spoke to one maltster on the record. That was wonderful conversation as well. So I feel like it really influenced how we ran season 7, and I'm excited for the year in preview episode that we have talked about internally. Perhaps we told you, perhaps we didn't, Jess. But you are also going to be part of that year in preview episode as we talk with Susanna in 2024. So I thank you and a look forward, which I think this time is always about. So there you go. I will stop talking about episodes, but gosh, what a year.
Yeah, I'm going to dust off my crystal ball for 2024.
That's it. That is absolutely it.
You know what we should do? I think we should continue drinking our favorite SCN whiskey. However, let's leave the whiskeys till the end. Let's talk about our favorite event. And then let's talk about the distillery that's wowed us the most. And then do the whiskeys.
Okay, I quite like that idea. What if we weaved in a non-SCN pick along the way and then save the SCN announcement for the end?
Okay. All right, so let's do... So that means... I kind of feel, though, if we're going to name the non-SCN pick, then we need to... It needs to be in our mouths while we do it.
Yeah, I'm pouring mine right now.
I'm so glad you've assumed that I have brought multiple glasses to the podcast. When last year you guys had me trekking across snow, I had to ring a doorbell. It was a whole thing.
Well, I figured if you were coming from your house, you may very well be surrounded by glassware.
You ready for this?
Ooh.
So I have a problem, guys.
Uh-oh.
Just the one.
My problem is my whiskey of the year, I don't have a bottle of it. But I have a bottle of my runner-up, and that's what I'm pouring.
Yeah,
You're okay
I
with
feel
that?
like that's happened before, and we've talked to that.
Oh, I
This sounds like a familiar problem.
Okay, all right. And it is a problem, right?
Absolutely. I'm
No.
heart and soul here for you.
Nonsense.
Terrible.
Well,
I also don't have any of my non-SCN picks. Because they're just too darn delicious. I've drunk them all.
all right, that's fine. I think that's totally fine. I don't think we need to pretend that we have the winners in the glass. I do, so that's totally tickety-boo. But,
Wah, wah, wah.
but if you don't, let's just talk to that. I think that's perfectly fine.
So,
Well, good, because there's not an awful lot we can do about it.
Nope, you are correct. Well, we could pretend, but let's not pretend.
so do we go in the same order? Do we go Jess, Joshua, Jason? Do we go Jason, Joshua, Jess? Do we
Well,
come back
are we
around?
going into event, and then into non-SCN, then into...
Event.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. So we're sticking the non-SCN in the middle.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just to give us some whiskey to talk about. Otherwise, we're talking about a lot of things that are only tangentially related to whiskey.
All right. Whiskey's already kicking in. He can't pronounce the word tangent.
To follow up from being selfish with my episode selection, this question really came to mind for me because I wanted to be selfish in talking about my favorite event of this year. And really because I was thinking about it over the weekend, and we circle back to a place where you are hopefully getting closer to showing up, Jess, which is I was at Jack Rose Dining Saloon mid-December with Tamara, my wife, who famously doesn't drink, and we had dinner with a couple of friends who do drink, and I got a chance to speak with Brittany, who is the GM at Jack Rose, and on the day of Premier Drams, she was running around like a crazy person, a headless chicken, a blue-arsed fly, like whatever we say in 2023 to reflect a crazy person. She to give me an insanely busy person. I know I'm digging a hole deeper as I'm trying to do.
Crazy person.
Yeah, when you find yourself in a hole, you should keep digging. So tickety-boo, mission accomplished. So yeah, she runs around, and I had a little special pour for her, and it had come from having a little special pour under the table, and it was so nice just to talk to her and just to reflect for a minute on Premier Drams and how it occurs across multiple floors, across multiple buildings. And it is so well attended, so incredibly well supported. People of DC and Northern Virginia and parts of Maryland and Delaware, it's incredible who comes out for it. And so I poured there. I had a chance to ship some product direct from our bottling hall in Kentucky that was being premiered at Premier Drams. Right? What a box to be checking on that one. And incredibly well received. You know, you and I just talked about this the other week, Joshua. You know, the Westward had people stopping in their tracks and looking back to it and saying, what was that again? Yeah. What was that one? And the Westland peated in Pinot de Charon, right? Crazy. Having a password for a bottle that was on the table that we had told people about on this podcast, right? Mm-hmm. It was just really tremendous, really, really awesome. And I could keep going on about it. I think the greatest compliment I can pay it is that I am counting down the days to returning to it next year. And as soon as Bill tells us the date, which Bill moved it around the calendar a fair bit in 2023. It wasn't the easiest thing, but each time he gave me a date, I said, that is in my calendar. I will not schedule anything on top of that. Even when he said he was going to host it July 4th, I said, not a problem. I will be there. So it's a cracker, and I'm excited to get back to it.
All right. There you go. That's some high praise. High praise indeed.
Very high. Very high.
Well, I'm glad you went first, because you basically sprung this idea on us at the beginning.
Those are the best ideas. and again, I just wanted to come up naturally in conversation, right? When you hear me talking about Premier Drams, what jumps into your head, right? Not what are you sitting there scheming month after month, but just, I hear the way he talks about that. That reminds me of X.
So for me, and this was back in September, I want to say, September. I was in San Francisco with Ollie Chilton and Chanel LaCorey. And we got to do a 3-way tasting event. No, I can't say it like that.
I have learned, Joshua. I have learned. Please don't say that. I have learned.
I wanted you to say rap battle.
A rap battle?
I would pay money to witness that.
We had a 3-way rap battle. It was like the Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
I think Nelly would absolutely crush both of you. I think Nelly would take that hands down.
Because she would weave in some Prince there too. You know what I mean? Like she'd lay it all down, and then she'd say, and that's what it sounds like when the doves cry.
Where you and Ollie are the doves.
We are the doves. Because we cried because we lost. So, no, seriously, you know, the three of us had this tasting at a private club in San Francisco where we got to taste some single malts of Scotland, some single cask Nation, and if memory serves, it was some elements of Isla as well. Geez, that part of it I'm a little fuzzy on, but
was that later?
Well, I mean, you know, I was less focused on the whiskey and more focused on just the three. You know, it was this open room, and we were just sitting on couches, and people would come to us and say, "Hey, what do you have?" And there would be these times where you know, someone would come to Ollie and say, "Hey, can I try X?" And he'd reach over to me and say, "Hey, do you have that bottle?" And we would just be passing bottles back and forth and, you know, pouring for people. You know, some people knew independent bottlers, really knew whiskeys. Some people didn't know at all. Mm-hmm. But what I liked about it is, you know, for me, these are two people that I look up to the most in the industry. To, you know, two of a handful of people that I really look up to, and being able to pour with them side by side as an equal made me feel pretty good.
That's very nice. Yeah, those are two super people to be hanging out with. That is very nice.
Yep. And man, Chanel kicks ass. She just kicks ass, and she, you know, she starts talking, and people listen, and I love that. I love it when anyone can just capture the attention of people, and these people stop talking and they say, okay, something important's happening here, right?
Every time I've seen her walk into a room to present, she's always said,
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
all out of bubble gum.
And then she puts the
That's a
sunglasses
movie
on.
reference, Jess. That's from a movie that you 100% have never seen.
Try me.
Have you seen it?
Joshua.
What movie is it from, Jess?
I have no idea.
There's a Scotsman who's the lead actor in it.
Rowdy Roddy Piper is not Scottish.
He wears a kilt.
Yes, he does, and his name is Rowdy Roddy Piper. He is not Scottish.
Is he not? It's actually his last name is Piperstein. That's the funny thing.
What is the name of that movie? I can remember the movie. They Live. I've seen that movie all the way through a couple of times, maybe multiple, but because my brother and I loved WWF at the time. And getting a chance to see Rowdy Roddy Piper in a movie, absolutely not my kind of movie, but I love him in it.
So good. And one of the things that I loved about this movie too, it was a John Carpenter movie, if I remember correctly. Shit.
Oh really? I
think
couldn't
so.
have told you that.
I think so. And if you pay attention, there's these scenes where he just focuses in on the eyes. And the people are just like looking around, and it sort of directs you to the next scene. When someone looks to the right, and, that's your cue to like, and they're going to look over there now. And I loved it so much. And Jess, you need to watch this movie. It's such
You do, Jess.
Such a
You
great
do.
movie.
I definitely know
You
the
will
line.
hate it.
Definitely know the line. I'll hate it. Wow. Of the three films I've ever seen.
You'll love it.
After Sweet Scott made you watch all the Star Wars movies and episodes, and now here you are being told to watch They Live.
I'm not
a
dead.
good
I mean, I
movie,
made it
but
to the end, right?
So enjoyable.
It's a great movie. The story is fantastic.
Okay.
They Live. Oh, please watch it, Jess. Please tell us what you
Well,
think.
maybe I need
Even
some
if you hate it.
cheerful festive viewing, because last Christmas I made the mistake of watching The Banshees of Inniskillen, which, let me tell you, is not the festive jollities you're hoping for. After I'd finished watching it, I went back to where my family were, and I was like, anyone for a drink?
Can you
It is
say all
bleak.
of that again, but sing it as if it were a Wham song?
No.
Last Christmas, I watched this movie.
Yeah, you know the exact point Joshua stopped listening was when the Wham started playing in his head. And it was after the
idea what
two
you said.
words, Last Christmas, and he was gone. He had left the conversation at that point.
Did we accidentally just Whamageddon people?
We totally
There you
went
go.
again. People.
I did
We're
not.
gonna rickroll
I did-
people a little later.
Podcast listeners, please don't hate me. It was all Joshua.
Yeah, we have the Banshees of Inisherin on our to watch list, but how do you find the right time to watch
There is no right
a movie
time.
that has that type of advanced billing?
And afterwards, you need to watch, like, I don't know, Barbie or something totally
Yeah,
100
Or
miles the other
They
direction at
Live.
first. Or they
They
lived.
Lived.
Okay, right.
Hey
okay.
Barbie.
All right, what was your event, Jess? I'm really curious to see
So
hear about
I had
your selection.
It's quite difficult because there's been a chunk of events that we've done that I've really enjoyed. And I started thinking further back in the year, because it's very easy to just think of, I feel like the second half of this year has vanished really
Absolutely.
quickly.
Yeah.
So
6 months are missing.
I tried to go a little bit further back than that. The first bit of the year was a little bit quiet for us, but I definitely it all started kicking off, I suppose, when we kind of got to the end of May. So the first events I was really enjoying pouring out, I would say, would be with our friends the Watts of Campbelltown.
Oh, nice.
So the Watt
Very
Whiskey
nice.
Festival is a great fun little stop off. There's always a bunch of people. I got to hang with a chunk of other indie bottlers, which is always fun, including our good friends at Claxton's. That was fun being on a table
nice.
next to
Yeah.
Martin and Tom. And we had a ton of fun as well afterwards. The after party is always really great fun. But because people who come to the Watt Whiskey Festival obviously I would say maybe a little bit more well-versed in whiskey. So they come with a different set of questions, which is always fun to answer. And we were pouring some really tasty stuff. So that would be on my short list. I also had fun.
Wait, that was the short list? That's not the selection.
I thought that was the selection. Okay, no.
Well,
Listen, if you want a short list, that's fine.
Well, it depends if you want this like Oscars style. I'll tell you the nominees and then I'll tell you the winner. I also hosted a couple of masterclasses for Tel Aviv Whiskey Live.
Indeed.
Which was a foray into the unknown some time ago now. Where I got to pour for Eve's, our importer. So I did 2 night sessions with them. And that was a ton of fun seeing some of my pals from Tel Aviv and Israel. And also pouring whiskey for some new friends. And I really enjoy being at Westland. I promise you I'm not sponsored by them, but I could be if they wanted to. I mean, there's only one reason why I would take a stupider route in and out of the US as I did. And that was to that event, and that was great fun. Just be back in one of my favourite distilleries with a really nice crew of people and having access to people like Anna and Tyler and being able to ask them whatever you want. And the whole crew just hanging around in the distillery. Very cool. Going around pecking some casks, recording a podcast. You know, everyday activities for being in Seattle.
And let's be honest, Jess. When we're at Westland without you, and in recent history it hasn't happened that often, but when we're at Westland without you, it feels like something and someone is missing.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you did take that circuitous route and you did come for that tasting, that selection, that recording, the hangout with Anna, Tyler, Jason, Phoebe, the gang, incomplete Joshua Hatton list. It honestly meant the world to have you there.
100%.
And so thank you for doing that. It really helped to make that event even more special.
I really don't think it was an option to not be there, because I'd probably still be sat crying into my Glencairn if I had, especially having seen the hijinks that happened and the fun and how much everybody loved it. I would, still be very miserable about the whole thing. So it was non-optional, really, but delighted to have gone and been a part of it, and a really fun thing to get to call that work.
When I pitched it to you in our weekly meeting, I pitched it as 99% sure/hopeful that you were going to make the trip and you were going to be part of it. But there was a respectful 1% that if you had to remain at home and it wasn't going to work for any number of reasons, that would have been okay. But yeah, when you were like, yep, I'm going to be there, it's like, yes, boom, yes. Let's do this. So, cheers.
Yeah, thanks. It was a great event. So, I think that's... you need an answer, don't you? You need an actual...
Yeah, you've named your 3 nominees.
Oh,
yep.
Yep.
Which one takes it?
What's going to take the gold?
Which one gets the statuette?
I am going to say what whiskey, because I think it's really fun to be part of these small events that are growing in Scotland and in my own home turf. God, I've gone all Hull accent. Home turf.
Wow. The people in Hull, all of our fans in Hull are snorting right now.
Is it not just because there was an actor who I can't think who it was now who just came out saying he thinks the sexiest accent is Hull? And the name will come back. It's like, it'll come back to me, but... so they then had to go and find loads of people from Hull to interview to give examples of this accent. And there's a great comedian called Lucy Beaumont who they wheeled out for most of it to be like, hey, tell us about Hull, and just go in YouTube Lucy Beaumont. She's very funny, but
Absolutely.
her accent is just what fell out of my mouth there. Yes. So Mark and Kate Wall. I think it's really fun to be part of an event that's run with friends and pouring for people who are so attentive and interested. And because of the positioning of the town when it's people who have a love for Campbelltown whiskey, it's got people who are excited to go to Islay. It's just got a really great buzz about it. And everybody's kind of like G'd up and excited to try some whiskey and what are you pouring and come and tell us a bit about yourself. So I think it's a ton of fun to be involved in it. And it was a great way for me to kick off my week on Isla and to have spent a couple of days crashing around Campbelltown too. So that's where my vote.
But I think that
goes.
that vibe that you describe is exactly my experience at Premier Drams, which is Nation members across multiple floors and multiple buildings are making a beeline for Single Cask Nation to taste what's on the table and to ask questions, right? And it's a chance to eyeball members of the Nation who are supportive online or in retail stores who you don't normally get to eyeball. And so I love the fact that all three of us are talking about a very similar vibe, right? All three of these very special events were made by the people who are around us. Yeah. I really love that part of it. Not one of us, maybe to our detriment, not one of us has talked about sales, right? Not one of us has talked about how bottles got shifted on the back of it. There were some really awesome people that I got to spend some time with pouring really good.
Are we meant to sell things at these tastings?
No, we're not. We're not. Okay. Let's not, in our end of year, let's not change our ethos.
You let me get all the way to 2023 and then you said, you know, there's actually something you're supposed to do with these bottles. Wow. Wowzers.
It is interesting. Our accountant does call us into his office at the end of year. I thought it was just to share a dram. Who the heck knows?
Move on quickly, run away from this. So I think that covers nice events, nice fun things. Yeah. I think it's people both sides of the table. It's not just the people you're pouring with, but it always eases the pain, especially if it's if a festival is a long day, which let's be honest, some of them are long days. It can make your time go by much faster if you've got like fun company either side of the table. And I've always said it way before I was Single Cask Nation. One of the things that always stood out for me about the Jubilee, and I'm laughing because this will trigger a whole bunch of people writing in about the Jubilee.
Thanks, Jess.
You're welcome. Was the attentiveness of the people who were looking after you. I felt as much a guest pouring at the Jubilee as I think the people who were enjoying imbibing in the whiskies responsibly. Yeah. And I think that's amazing. And I think Julie and the crew at Glasgow Whisky Festival definitely deserve a shout out for that because they have a whole army of volunteers who do a great job of making sure there's a never-ending round of teas and coffees, water jugs being refilled, snacks coming to the table. You know, like that's the kind of thing that makes me really glad to be taking part in a festival, is that I feel a little bit looked after as well.
That's nice. That's nice.
Please address all Jubilee comments, questions and concerns to Jessica Lomas at info@singlecasknation.com and we will just forward them straight on to her. So.
Everybody listening to this podcast knows to find me at jess@singlecasknation.com. What you don't know is that I've got a GoFundMe starting for the Jubilee. And you would know that if you're on social media.
She's gone Jubilee on us. What are we covering next?
So we are, let's get off the Jubilee here.
No.
Which we loved.
Though, having said that, watch this space. Now I'll move on. All right. So
please address all questions, comments, and concerns to Joshua Hatton at info@singlecasknation.com.
So now that we've gotten our favorite episode out the way, and the favorite event,
done with it,
right? That we were a part of, out the way. We are now ready to discuss our favorite non-SCN whiskey of the year. Now, Jason,
here come the rules.
So I want to make sure of the rules, right? So. In the past, it has been favorite whiskey that was released this year, but then we hit some speed bumps. Or not speed bumps. We've hit some obstacles, a year here, a year there, where we said, but wait a second, I didn't try anything that was released this year, but I did try something that was released a couple years back that I tasted only this year. And therefore, it's a new whiskey to me. And so,
we've definitely gone down that path. I was thinking about this rule or this addendum in thinking about, we can't pick anything from your birthday party.
God.
Like from your whiskey. Come on. We can't do that.
Why? I mean, they were
listen.
all opened, brand new.
Yeah, come on. Let's leave it open, Joshua. Whatever you've tasted this year that took it for you, I will not, what do we say in our house? I will not yuck your yum. So whatever your yum is, please feel free to share it with our very dear podcast listeners.
So I had 2 runners up.
No.
Come on. 3?
No.
3.
5.
No.
5.
Four.
No. No. Listen, I held my own feet to the fire for podcast episode. So we will do winner and solo runner-up.
Okay.
He's getting meaner as this episode goes on.
Let me
I learned from last year.
Let me give you the tasting note, because remember, I don't have the whiskey that won, but I do have the runner-up, and man, were they close.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So you're going to give us notes for the runner-up, and then you're going to tell us what it is, and then announce the.
So the notes on this, on the nose, you've got a bit of. There's a coastal quality coming on here. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. But a sweetness, like almost like crushed apricots and creme fraiche. Mm-hmm. The coastalness is more like a salty brininess. It doesn't really smell peaty, but it's coastal and briny. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, but it's so fruity. It's fruity. It's nutty. Think apricots. Think toasted walnuts.
Uh-huh.
Okay. On the palate.
Uh-huh. And he tasted this year for the first time. Okay. Okay. So it's not the Imperial that got him into Imperial. So we know we can take that out of the consideration.
There's a bit of spice coming from the get-go, from beginning to end. There's spice straight down the middle of my tongue. Mm-hmm. And again, it's coastal, and there's a bit of smoke, but it's delicate. It's so delicate.
The most painful. Oh, okay. I've got a bit of a guess. I know that I'm racking my brain in what we went through on that Friday night, and those brain cells did not do well that night. So this is, but I think I know. You keep saying the word delicate enough times. So
this was not tasted that night. This was not tasted that night.
Clang.
Because you weren't allowed.
Never pick
so listen,
an Impex bottle.
My other runner-up was this bottle of Pinch, and you wouldn't let me talk
Ben
about
had me guess
the Pinch from the 50s.
And then his winner was an M&H from the Impex portfolio. So Joshua can tell you a lot of things, and he can zig and zag within his own answer. So
I also like that we think
that.
he can remember what he drank on the Friday night to know that it wasn't on the table.
I know they all got put on his desk and not on his shelf, so I figure he had something within easy reach. Okay, so this wasn't tasted on the night. Yeah, is it?
So this, I'll narrow it down for you. This was a U.S. only release. It is cask strength.
Got it.
Okay.
It is a single cask.
Okay. Is it from an independent bottler?
It is not from an independent bottler.
Is it a distributor or importer exclusive? I know you said American. Is it as wide as that, or is it within key states?
It's more pinpointed. And I will say, I broke one of my own semi-rules in selecting this.
Right, so I think this is from one of your top 5 distilleries.
It is.
But when you said single cask, I panicked because I don't think the thing that I was going to pick is a single cask.
Yeah. Were you thinking Arden America?
Boom.
Jess?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Arden America was excellent. Arden America was beyond excellent.
It's not a single
and tasted in such a special way.
Yep.
With all of us in Elgin. But is it a single cask or is not?
This is a single cask.
Yeah, in Arden America was not a single cask.
It was not, no. But
yeah, I agree
with. Man, was that was that a special pour. Oof. But no, this one. Hey, here, let me give you how would you describe this color?
Yes, Jason, tell us what colour you would call this. This is no
Yes, Mr.
sanguine
Colorblind.
copper.
I purposely stayed quiet so you could give the colour, Jess.
Oh,
What'd you say?
well,
It's a reddish blonde, is it not?
yeah.
I would call it honey. I would say clover honey.
I'd be on board with that. Clover honey works for me. So is it from the Ardnamurchan distillery?
It is not from the Ardnamurchan distillery.
But it is from the Impex portfolio, which is the rule that you're breaking.
It is, and I'm breaking the rule because this is just.
Okay.
It is just so special. I gotta throw rules to the wind.
Right.
Fuck rules.
Penderyn,
It is not Penderyn.
M&H.
All right, now you're just naming names. Think about the tasting notes. It's
Well, but that got us to Ardnamurchan, and that didn't work. So now we're zigging in our own response to you zagging.
should I just put you out of your misery?
Yes, please.
No.
I mean, we've discussed the colour, so there's really nothing else you can tell us about.
Okay, here is the last thing that I'll tell you, and I'm afraid that this may give it all away.
Well, that would be perfect if it did.
Okay. This whiskey was matured in my favorite cask type.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Sauternes.
That's right. Man.
It's not like a Kilchoman 100% Isla in Sauternes, is it?
It's definitely not 100% Isla.
Just because you were talking about so subtle and so soft and so coastal, it made me think of the reduced peating levels in the 100% Isla. So it is a Kilchoman?
Yeah, so here's the thing. So it is a Kilchoman. This is the Kilchoman for warehouse liquors.
10-year single cask?
Yep,
There we
10-year-old single cask celebrating the 40th anniversary.
Ninth day of the 6th month.
That was my first. I was like,
2023 for
20
bottling.
days away from perfection. Damn it.
and yeah, you would think, given the so again, this is a 10-year-old single cask, cask number 36 from 2013, bottled 9th of June 2023. It says Sauterne finish, so bourbon and then Sauterne, and the peating level was so delicate here. You would think it's 100% Isla. However, 100% Isla spirit and Kilchoman Port Ellen spirit are so very different. This doesn't have that 100% Isla herbaceousness that comes through. So part of me postulates, could this be one of the lower peating level, quote unquote, unpeated Kilchomans that was then finished in Sauterne because it's so delicate, it's so soft.
Interesting.
But the Sauterne is doing everything I want it to be doing with the Kilchoman spirit and then some. It's just gorgeous coming and going.
And I own a bottle of this?
You do own a bottle of it. So that's
Is that part of
whiskey.
the criteria?
So that's whiskey number
Jason.
2.
Jason's lost a little track of his Kilchomans, so good. Thank you.
Whiskey number 1
Yeah.
was part of a larger series that we only got samples of.
Go on.
And they were selected or put together by our dear friend Ollie Chilton. That's a double name check
I'm
in
with
one
you.
episode right there.
Yeah. Keep talking.
Ollie Chilton.
I'm nearly there.
I'm just going to tell you what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is the 31-year-old Linkwood. That was Lady Macduff. She was Lady
Very nice. That was a cracker.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolute cracker.
Right. Now, it was between that
go.
and Menteith, but Lady Macduff just won out. Just gorgeous coming and going. Yep.
Very nice. What a couple of little cracking options there. Okay.
And that bottle is
Jessica Rabbit
750
Lomas.
pounds. That's why I don't have a bottle.
We will return to this theme momentarily. Go on, Jess.
Very heavily influenced in this nomination series for me. This is really tricky for me because I've drunk tons of stuff this year. Calm down, don't ring my mum. Some of which has been really magical. I just did a stint of whiskey judging, and because the results are not back from the World Whiskey Awards, I still don't know what some of the things I've put a little earmark next to that it will be the spring before I get the opportunity to ask very kindly, please will you tell me what these are, because there were some absolute belters in there. So that's one of the most frustrating parts for me, is not knowing what the samples were. That really annoys me. It makes it much more impartial, of course, but very frustrating to drink something and be like, I would really like a bottle of this, to be told, can't tell you. So I've had a little head scratch. I was thinking about things that I drank again earlier on in the year. There was a couple of really cool things I got to drink during the Festival on Islay. The first thing that I thought that was pretty awesome was the first public and a sort of, I don't know if I can call it a release because it wasn't a release as such, but the first public pouring of Bowmore. David Turner's been working on a 100% floor malting project, which I've been hearing about for a long time and how good it is. And this year, they did a special masterclass if you booked to do the maltings tasting. Not only did you get to go and make snow angels in the barley in the kiln, you got to try this. It's young. It's only, I think, 6 or 7 years old off the top of my head. And it's 100% floor malted right there at Bowmore, which I think is a very cool legacy project for David to have started having ticking away in the background. I was surprised because the bottling is from virgin oak, and it is, I think it's still sat above 60% because it's not very old. So it's a chunky little number, but like you're talking about the difference between a Kilchoman Port Ellen malting and the home malted, as you could call it, I guess. The texture in this Bowmore is totally different, and it's really remarkable. And one of the things I have loved for a long time about Bowmore is the way that smoke carries itself. And in this, it's just, I think it's kind of ramped up, but it's not as if someone set fire to the whiskey. It's really cool. So definitely, I will be keeping a keen eye on Bowmore to see when they want to let us have another wee sippy of that, because it is.
Just a quick question for you. For their floor malting stuff, I love how you talk about texture, that there's an obvious difference between the texture. Do you find the fruitiness is amped up? Is there anything else that's different from their floor maltings to what they bring in?
Yeah, I think maybe the fruitiness is there a little bit more. And I don't know if that's because maybe the malt's not worked as intensively as it would be in a commercial malt stir, because they are still, I guess, in the process of handling it themselves. They don't do it for the full year round. I think they only do a couple of batches of it a year, if maybe only one.
15% or something.
Yeah, so like they're not doing a huge amount of it. So for the whiskey to be solely their own product, I think is really cool. And seems to be very popular within people higher up, and they want to see more of Bowmore doing this. So I think that's a really cool opportunity for, I mean, obviously it is happening at Lafroig, they're doing it, and like you say, Bowmore are doing a small amount of it themselves. Anyway, but to see the opportunity of moving towards, like 100% is really cool. And to have, for David to be given creative freedom basically to see as he fits with the production and how to run all the equipment afterwards, I think is pretty cool. And when you talk to him about it, he's so excited about it and he's so proud of it. It's such a cool liquid. So I was really excited when I found out that was going to be an option. You could go to a masterclass. It was first thing in the morning for us. We managed bleary-eyed to stagger from our cottage out to the distillery. It was well worth it. Really delicious whiskey. So
I remember from our time interviewing him, when Josh and I were in the warehouse with him doing that interview, and he started talking about his floor malting experiments then, and you could see him just start to brighten and lighten, and there was this kind of giddy kid enthusiasm, which I love seeing in people who have the opportunity to play around at distilleries in the way that we don't. And so that really resonated, and so to hear you talking so highly of those experiments is really cool, Jess.
And it's
I'm really really excited for that.
Yeah, it's young whiskey, so I was ready for it to be like an exciting work in progress type, forgivable, that you can see where it's going, that you're really there for the story rather than necessarily the end product. But I tell you, I just was really blown away by it. I was really impressed. I do have a bottle of it that we haven't cracked. I'd like to hold it and maybe keep it for comparisons to put with other ones in the future if they will allow it out of the door again. But yeah, super cool. The other really cool thing that I got to try, and I can't make it my non-SCN pick of the year, but it was pretty high-end exciting. My friend Boris has worked with Lagavulin. He and a couple of friends, they also have an independent bottling line in Germany. So if you've ever come across them, they are Wu Dram Clan.
Nice.
Nice.
And they had released their own casks of distinction Lagavulin, which I was very lucky. I got to try a little wee sippy of it. It's not every day you get to try a 30-year-old Lagavulin single cask.
Nope.
So that was pretty magical. Everybody knows I love Lagavulin. They're consistently in my incomplete top 5 list of whiskies and have been since the very beginning. So they're really cool. I feel like this whole list is from Isla, and it's not deliberately. I think it's because this year I've just really enjoyed peaty whiskey. I've gone back round to lots of peaty goodness. Was being in the Bonaccord and getting to try with James Wills, getting to try the new Kilchoman 16, which has been a wee bitty controversial. I know there's a lot of people who are a little bit grumbly about the price of it. But I think if you shut your eyes and try the liquid, it's delicious. You're getting to try some of the oldest stocks that the distillery have and are never going to be seen again. And I just love the way the distillery have really kind of kept it true to themselves. And I think for the same reason as when you're talking about Kilchoman, Joshua, I think with your eyes shut, Kilchoman's really easily recognizable because it just is so, even when they mess with different casks or the, hyphenated, unpeated, it's still got a really recognizable character. So to me, that was pretty nice.
Yep. Yep. Well said.
I
Are we
can
going
see
3 nominees in a pick? Or
yeah, I'm just going to keep
is this
listing
Oscar
things
style
until
again?
Jason's
She's just
going to
keep going. We have 4 more hours to go through here, so she's just going to keep going.
In February, I drank. It's really hard for me to make a pick because I don't often repeat whiskies too. So if it makes me go back to it, then it is.
There's so many wonderful foie moments.
Sometimes I'm worried when you do this.
So many well judges.
Did she mention the 30-year-old Lagavulin single
and
cask?
then my friends were pouring this for me, and David Turner poured this in a masterclass. I tend not to drink whiskies twice.
It's such an awful spoiled princess attitude to have, for which I apologise profusely. It's just really, I don't know how to tell you guys, I'm a big deal.
So what's the favorite out of these, or have you not mentioned? Well, my final one,
I was going to tell you they were my runners-up. I was going to undo the work I did in the previous category. My favourite thing that I am drinking currently is a bottle that has appeared in our house that's a Klein Leash, and it's from the Rare Malts collection, which I've always said if I could have any money and I could build a little collection.
The Rare Malts.
Sweet Scott's not here, so I'll just have another generous pour of it. Thanks, Dave.
What was the year on bottling?
This is a 1974 Klein Leash, 23-year-old, and it was bottled in 1998.
Foie.
I know.
Foie.
Look, there's only certain outlets. If I have this conversation at home with my mother, she gets really panicky. She thinks that when I start naming that I've drunk more than 3 things in a short period of time, she starts thinking that she needs to get me into a program somewhere. This podcast, I'm with friends. This is a safe space, right? Even though I think I've put most of you off me right now by being like, I drink a Rare Malts. It's a Klein Leash. It's not a Brora, but I mean.
I'm glad we allowed the category extension to something I tasted this year as opposed to was released this year, when you've got a 1974 released in 1998.
What's the distilled date on it? Does it list the 1974 distilled date?
No, it just sticks at 74. You can look them up. There's a very good book written by... Is it Ingvar Ronda?
Oh, interesting.
No, I may have misspoken.
Yeah.
So, but there is a very good Rare Malts book that was written about all of these that talks about the release in the era. This is a For people who don't know what these are, go and look them up. They're an incredible collection that Diageo released at the end of the 90s of liquid, the likes of which have never been seen since. They're all at pretty high volume. This is 59.1. Some of them are over 60.
Yeah, the Del Ewing I always look at is well over 60.
Yeah, they're from an era, I think, where Diageo had pretty hot casks. None of them are finishes, to my knowledge. I think they are just bottled as they are. Natural cask strength was kind of what they were talking about. Nobody at that time was particularly talking about finishing and second maturations or any of that kind of stuff. They're an incredible collection, and I've had some absolute belters when I've been lucky enough to try them. So when this one snuck its way into the house, I was like, oh, hello, new friend.
It's a series that I have followed for 25 years because they started being released at the very beginning of my whiskey journey. And so when this rare malt series started appearing, and I think, was 98 the first year of them, or had they happened in 97?
I feel like it's fairly near, if it's not the first, I think it's
right
very
in
near the beginning of them.
Right? And so we were cutting our teeth on Lafroig 10 and Highland Park 12. And these rare malts appeared, and they were £80 a bottle. And I remember just like, who's drinking £80 a bottle whiskey? Like, I'm a student at the University of Aberdeen. Yes, we've got a tasting society, but we were bringing in drinkers for every month. Yeah. So we would taste through 8 whiskies. It would cost £5 to get in, and it was £3 to be a member. Yeah. And so £80 for one bottle was a lot of money. And yes, you can only imagine over the last 25 years watching what they're doing in auction. I'm like, oh my God, I should have begged, borrowed, and stolen money to buy them all at £80. But it was still so early on, and whiskey was still rebounding at that point, and we didn't realize that 1970s whiskies were being sold in the 90s because there was no buyers for them in the 80s.
That's what I mean.
And so they had just sat in warehouses.
Never to be repeated. There's they did try to, off the back of it, a few years later, there's another collection that's released. It's called The Manager's Choice. That is very much in vogue of this, but it's not... Yes. It wasn't half as successful. It was released at already adjusted pricing, should we call it? The book, is written by a gentleman called Ulf Buxred, who... Oh, yeah, I know that name. Has written a few other whiskey books. But yeah, if you ever get a chance to read the books, well worth looking at, just for having the collection, because not all of the whiskies were repeated. There is actually a couple of bottles, I think 2 or 3 different ones that were released just for South Africa. There are ones that went to the US. So it's quite an interesting seeing at the time where whiskey was being sent to, what markets. The only bit that's a bit sad about them is they do suffer from 90s Diageo corks, which means that they're terrible for evaporation. If you see them in auctions, and I used to see them a lot, the levels can quite often be in the shoulders or like below, and it's just because the cork quality was crap. So the evaporation's pretty high, and you can see it on the foil. Sometimes it looks a bit bubbly. It doesn't mean anybody's messed around with it. It's just because these high ABV whiskies are actively trying to escape out of the bottles. So yeah, you can lose a little bit that way too, which is sad because they're very cool. So that's my cheating non-SCN release of the year.
Yeah, Jason, follow that. So I will keep it to my runner-up and my winner. And my runner-up is the runner-up. And I knew when I tasted it, it was my runner-up for the year. The flavor profile is such. This could be an easy take-home whiskey of the year winner, right? Again, it's from Ollie Chilton's selections. This is from the first Macbeth series.
I know which one it is.
That was revealed. I know, it's not even a guessing game. I'm hoping the listeners know exactly which one it is as well. It was the first witch that we tasted. It was the moment at which I thought this series is such a home run. And for Dave Broom to be taking notes, and then for them to be pairing that with Shakespeare, to then go through a list of casks to put into bottle, like, what is this, 19-year-old Ardbeg for £650 a bottle?
550.
550?
Yeah,
Is this one? This one's 550?
I just looked at it. I was just looking.
I'm buying it right now. I thought it was 650 and I wasn't buying
Yeah,
it.
no,
Okay.
there you go. And that's before VAT. Or no, that's not VAT
No, it's
included.
including VAT.
That's
That's
with
including
that,
VAT. So less
Yeah.
VAT, it's $3, Jason.
right? Done. I'm buying 2. Easy peasy. Well, it's just become my whiskey of the year. No doubt about it. But in tasting it, you know, those flavors, it was so heavy and so smoky and such a good example of Ardbeg and such a good example, like you're saying in your winners, Jess, or your runners-up. Like, it's just what Islay can do so well. And I was absolutely in love with it. And I do have my little half sample bottle.
Oh, I do have a half sample
sitting
somewhere.
in front of me. Just if it needed an emergency pouring. So we
So I have mine
may-
too, but mine just say like sample 1, sample 2, and I don't remember which one is my link with, but I have it here.
This is great. I feel like Joshua's trapped in an escape room. It's like, I have the key, but I don't know how to use it or where to put it. Like, I have all the numbers, but I don't know which is
What
which.
order they go in? Oh man.
That's awesome. So there you go. So there's my runner-up that is an easy runner-up and could have just as easily been an easy winner. I'm not going to say any more about that 550 because you really got the wheels turning at 650.
Just to be
was
clear,
off
it's
limits.
$4.58 excluding VAT. And my
If I
birthday
keep
just
talking, it's
passed.
going to get
Jason.
cheaper and cheaper.
$4.58. Wow, I should have bought it in the US.
Yeah, my birthday both just passed and will soon be here. This seems perfect timing. All right, my winner is also a very easy one because I've talked about it all year long. However, I did discover in Connecticut that it is not without controversy. So, how to describe this? I tasted this with the person who selected it, with the person who bottled it, with the person who's selling it, and I thought, it's a distillery that I love in a style of cask that I'm not overly excited about. However, I do love the spirit that is connected to said cask. And when I tasted this, I thought it was absolutely exceptional. It's bright, it's fruity, it's spicy. It really resonates, checks so many boxes for me. It's a good strength as well. And then I found out in Connecticut that a couple of people for whom I have spoken so highly of this bottling, it didn't resonate in the same way. And and listen, we've all got different palates, right? There's some things that resonate in different ways and some hit in different ways. Totally fine, right? And it's totally fine that Jess Lomas and Michael Nolan experienced this whiskey differently than me.
And Swede Scott. Don't let him out of it.
He at least had the sense to keep quiet.
Do I like it, Jason? Have I had it before?
You and I loved it together, Joshua.
All right. I love it when we love things together, Jason. Just you and me.
You were not present at my original sampling of it, but I did bring you a bottle and proceeded to drink a good portion of your bottle.
Oh, at the party?
No, but it was
No.
threatened.
No, it was threatened. But no, this was back in Philadelphia in the spring of the year. I just love doing this to him. I just love watching him twist in the wind.
I like that he's pausing as if he's just going through either a Rolodex or a spreadsheet of things.
When were we in
No,
Philadelphia?
I remember because I remember we went to Monk's Cafe, right?
good.
That was a highlight.
Good. And we opened something together.
Did
and
open some.
drank a lot of it. On the same night, we were drinking some very good Spirit of Yorkshire whiskey as well.
Oh shit, that's right. I remember the Spirit of Yorkshire. Yeah, so much so that I gave you the rest of my bottle. You loved it so much.
Which I loved so much, I shared it with our friends at Virginia Distillery Company, and they loved it too. If I told you I had great difficulty getting the cap off my bottle for this episode.
It's the Westland from a Mezcal cask for Jack Rose. There you go.
That's exactly correct.
Cask 2543.
It is subtitled Fruit of the Earth.
So
they like to do subtitles on their releases. So this is Fruit of the Earth.
So hold on a second.
Uh-huh.
Jessica Rabbit Lomas, the world's premier Westland fangirl. Didn't they love this one so much?
To be fair, maybe we've only had the neck pour. So
to be fair,
I'll have to go back and correct that immediately. I don't know. Maybe we cracked it open on a night that maybe we were just not feeling it. And it's super weird to me because obviously it's Westland, but also because it's mezcal and I love mezcal. So in my head, it's a no-brainer. But I don't know. Just that first pour of it, really wasn't feeling it.
Was it because? So this was my issue with it, and it's an issue with a very, very, very small I. My issue with it was the mezcal almost overtakes the spirit. Almost. To the point where it's almost 50-50.
That's Michael Nolan's concern with it. My take is not that. My take is the Washington Pale Malt really shines through. And then you've got the mezcal going on. You know, could it be 50-50? I don't think that's a bad thing. Could it be 60-40 mezcal? That would certainly fit with Nolan's experience of it. But I just think it's so bright and so fresh and so perfectly spicy and smoky with the brightness and the fruitiness of the Washington Pale Malt. And even today, even when I'm thinking, I'm about to announce this as my non-SCN of the year, when did I last taste it? Are Jess and Michael Nolan correct? And I poured it here while we were talking and tasted it. I still passionately love it. I am still hugely impressed by this Westland in 2023.
Well,
I've not fully dismissed it, and I will definitely be going back to it. It was the spiciness. Maybe just the night that we were trying a few drams, and it just didn't jive with everything else. I know that it's the Washington Pale, which is not my favorite. I think 5 malt's for what it's.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So maybe as well in my head, I went in expecting one thing, and I just had a totally different. I have definitely not written it off. I think we were also trying it with a whole bunch of other Westerns at the same time. I think we were definitely having Calere, and we were drinking the Bellwether Cask Exchange.
That's a lot, Jess.
Yeah, so it was a lot of things to mix all at once.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what it was. Maybe tonight after my tasting's finished, I've got a little Christmas tasting happening here. Maybe I'll crack it out again.
To be clear, neither you nor Michael were of the, wow, you picked that. That's total garbage, you know. Neither one of you were like that. It was just more like interesting. It maybe didn't hit us in the way that it hit you, which is why I stuck to my guns and made it today's selection, but also I wanted to have this conversation because you do know Westland and you are well versed in Westland. And so to know where it falls within your Westland palate, as you've just explained, is tremendous. You know, we don't name the whiskey of the year to say this is legit the best thing of the year. Everybody go out and buy it right now. It's to say, this was the best thing I tasted in 2023, and I passionately love it and return to it and enjoy it every time.
So with that in mind, do you select a whiskey that also, because I do this, I tend to select a whiskey that takes me off guard, where it's presenting flavors that you know I just hadn't experienced before. And if this cask is doing anything, and by the way, dear listener, I've just poured a little bit of that Westland. That's what it does. This is showing me flavors that Westland hasn't shown me before, which I quite like.
but still riding that Westland Washington pale
Male.
malt. There's a lot of variations could go horribly
Pall
wrong
Mall,
there.
like the old cigarettes.
Exactly, back to Monopoly. But it's still riding that 100% Washington Pale Malt right through the centre of the experience. And then there's all the jumping off points from there. So is it an experience? Yes, absolutely. Is it a really good whiskey? To my mind, yes, absolutely. And so it's not just an experience that makes you go, well, that doesn't taste like anything I've had in 2023. It's a, whoa, that's bringing new ideas to malted barley distillation.
Okay.
And that's what I love about it. That's what I return to.
There we go. Fair. Look at that. We're ticking the boxes here. Best episode, best event, best non-SCN whiskey. We're now, dear listener and dear co-hosts, we are now at the distillery that has wowed you the most in 2023.
Would you both mind if I went first?
I would love it.
No, please do.
Yeah.
Because the category that I was going to shoehorn this into was runner-up, place number 2 for best thing I tasted this year. And so to have a category of its very own. And so, you know, very simply, we did a blind barrels blind tasting. We went around the doors of what is this? Where is this from? Could this be American single malt? No, this can't be American single malt. Is this from Balvenie? You know, we went around so many doors. And when we got to the final release of this being Santa Fe, and I have been following Santa Fe without tasting Santa Fe, without visiting Santa Fe, and to have my first experience be completely blind with it, my eyes were wide open.
Wow.
And we have talked since that tasting of how do we source Santa Fe casks? How do we have a conversation with Santa Fe? What would it look like to go to Arizona and visit Santa Fe? It is absolutely front and center for me. And it's another one where I've got a little less than the half sample bottle sitting in front of my face day in and day out, so that I am thinking about Santa Fe every single day that I'm sitting at this desk. So yeah, I love the fact that that question got brought up today. And I love the fact that I was ready to go with an answer. No worries at all. And again, we're talking American single malt whiskey, right? Do we love Westland and the people at Westland? Absolutely. Do we love VDC and the people at VDC? Absolutely. And do we love other American producers of American single malt whiskey? Absolutely. You know, we mentioned Westward earlier, right? Our friends at Copperworks. It's an incomplete Joshua Hatton list because there's so many good ones out and about.
So many, right?
And we added a new one for us to that.
There you go.
And that's Santa Fe. So as you can tell, I'm excited. And I'm very hopeful for 2024 to be tasting more barrels from them.
He's so excited, and he just
There you
can't
go.
hide it. He's about to lose
I have
control.
no first place runner up, second place runner up. I got to take a shoehorn and put it in its own shoe.
And he thinks he
Life
likes
is
it.
good.
All right.
Okay,
One
Joshua,
of you two.
tell
is it
us
me?
Your
Do
Yeah.
I go? So yeah, I guess the idea of a distillery that excites you the most this year can take the place of sort of that runner-up non-SCN whiskey of the year, but it allows you, I think, to really talk about them more broad strokes.
Yeah,
And the
for sure.
number of releases they've done, or if they've made a statement, changed production, you know, whatever, right? There's all sorts of criteria we could talk about. In 2020, what year is it?
3.
3. Okay, so in 2021, very late, maybe as early 2022, I had declared this distillery as entering into my top 5 distilleries writ large.
We're back to our friends on McLean's Nose.
McLean's Nose. And they just keep knocking out of the park. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. It's Ardnamurchan. From the Arden America bottling, which was that Oloroso and PX, it just floored me and floored every person I poured. This was why I brought the bottle with us when we were in Scotland together. That was our road when we were off the road.
That was a special share.
Right?
That was a ton of fun.
I gifted a bottle of this to Michael Nolan for Hanukkah. It just, I just think it was that special of a bottling. And then, while I had the two of them, and by the two of them I mean Connell and Carl. What's going on?
You're gifting it to us too today?
No.
Is that why you called us here?
No, that's not why I called you here.
Oh.
Are either of your names Michael Nolan?
It's like an Oprah moment. Like, you get a bottle.
You get a bottle.
Look under your seat, Jess. Yeah.
I guess Santa Hanukkah is real slow in Glasgow. Look at the way we just derailed this whole thing.
Mine must be in my spirits bag. I must have picked it up while I was there.
When I had Connell and Carl over here doing the Arden America tour, they also had a bottling of their unpeated whiskey from a champagne cask. And it was, I forget the name of the champagne producer. It's like Paul something. It's like the last name ends with a D. Do you know what it is, Jess?
It's La Noire, I think, but I've pronounced that wrong and there's definitely no D in the name.
There's no D.
Ends in an S.
Okay. Oh.
No D.
With an S, not an L?
It starts with an L.
Yes.
Launois.
Just like earlier with Last Christmas, I haven't heard any part of this conversation since I gifted a bottle to Michael Nolan for Hanukkah. So, what are we talking about right now?
So
I think that Ardnamurchan are also the official or are helping to import the champagne to the UK.
They are,
so hopefully we will see more of their lovely wines, and I'll be able to drink it alongside the whiskey.
So that whiskey in particular, it was never coming to the U.S. They just brought it as, something to sort of build out the tastings that they were doing. It present all of the fruits that I loved from the 31-year-old Linkwood. That was my number one, right, from the Macbeth series. All of the fruits presented there were present in this Ardnamurchan champagne cask, the Paul blah blah blah, whatever it is. Just albeit brighter, younger fruit. Like, it was just remarkable, all the things that it was doing as a 5 or 6 year old whiskey. And it's clear that, with that bottling, it was clear that you don't need peat to hide sins when the spirit is that good. Right? Unpeated, champagne cask, Ardnamurchan spirit just there for you. And it just floored me. So I love what they're doing. I love their approach. I think the people behind it are doing smart things. I think that when they released McLean's Nose as a high malt content blend at such a damn cheap price, they're putting
McLean's Nose?
What did I say?
McLean's?
And what should I say?
McLean? Charlie McLean?
Yeah.
But you never say Charlie McLean, right?
Mr. McLean, right? He's bald, he has the earring, he helps you clean things. Is that him?
His magic erasers are pure magic.
Are excellent. But so I feel as if they're putting out old school whiskey today, and I like that. That's all. Just impressive. Impressive as all get out.
Very nice. All right, Jess, let's...
And just really quickly, that's the second time I broke my rule. I'm not meant to mention any Impex things.
After last year, we knew the rules were broken. Rules are made to be broken. Hell, we're tasting things from 1998 getting release of the year, so here we are. It's all fun and games. Right. We're just hanging out. All right, Jess, no No runners up, just boom.
Straight
Oh,
to
well,
it.
this is like super awkward
Straight to
because my answer is also Ardnamurchan.
Is it Ardnamurchan?
So we can just sweep this whole category and I'll go, ditto.
So
I
what
want
are
to change
your,
mine. I want mine to be Ardnamurchan.
what
And
are your
it's
reasons?
also on my list. Look, not that the podcast listeners can hear Ardnamurchan.
Look at this.
There you go.
Gosh,
Not,
it's
so
in
I've
our
shown my
notes.
working. It's not just a copycat cop-out answer. I think because I've been following Ardnamurchan for a long time from their While We Wait releases, going to, Good Spirits and picking those up. They've been a ton of fun liquids to try along the way. I think it really cemented it for me was going to the distillery this year and being allowed to run around the warehouse and try different things, point at casks and be like, what's that? What does that taste like? And that was...
Can I interrupt you? I'm sorry. Wasn't it Rosé that did While We Wait?
There's been not bottling it as the name of While We Wait. There's been a series of Ardnamurchan that were like AD releases in the blue bottle.
Yeah.
While it came along.
Okay.
So yeah, they weren't called While They Wait, but that's a
just all the
phrase. I
different
don't know if
batch
Ratsy-
numbers with the big.
and it had like a spirit thermometer, like that you see in the spirit safe.
Yeah.
Cut out the side of the bottle so you could see the level in your bottle.
Yeah.
They were really good fun and surprisingly good quality from the get-go. We bought, I think, the first one to pour for the club as a kind of, let's see what this is like, for something that's coming along, see how we're doing. And every year we were like, if this is this good at this, stage, we've got something really cool on its way. So
Nice.
when they started releasing proper, fully matured, legally and ready to go as Ardnamurchan was just a ton of fun. And visiting the distillery, being looked after by Graham and Jenny and Connell were there, and the team that were around, the guys in the shop. They're just a great bunch of people, and a ton of. It's a great distillery. If you can make the pilgrimage that far out to the furthest possible bit of Scotland, and then a bit more, when we went out to pick the casks, the ferry was still off, so we had to do that whole extra loop through the Glenfinnan Viaduct, which is very pretty, but must be incredibly
pretty.
irritating if you live out there and the
It
ferry's
adds
not working.
on an extra hour and something.
Yeah,
doesn't
tons of miles. And when we finished at the distillery, we stayed over and we had a great dinner cooked by Graham. The morning after, they said, you really should go see McLean's Nose and go out to the lighthouse. And I thought they were joking when they said that was another hour's drive. I was like, we'll be in America by then. There's no more of this mainland to get to. So yeah, if you go out there, the team make it worth more than your while for venturing so far west. But like you, I think they are just putting out consistently brilliant stuff. And the fact that we drank the Ardnamurchan from a ramshackled selection of 4 incredibly shitty glasses, which were not fit for purpose, and yet it was still absolutely delicious and fantastic liquid, I think is testament to, we weren't even giving it a fair start, and it still absolutely shone through. So picking 2 casks from them was an absolute honour, and I'm very happy with what we've ended up with.
Moving right along. Footloose and fancy free.
Getting there is half the fun. Come share it with me.
After much waffling and much a-doing, and around the housing, I think we should get to our final category, which is our favourite SCN release of 2023.
Here we go.
That's tough. I find this category to be the toughest of them all, right? Because we select all these, so they're all our babies.
Right.
So
It's like the episodes
all right, it's
from
like
One
the
Nation Under
episodes,
Whisky.
yeah.
We've circled back in the same idea.
Also, you can't cheat here and pick a whiskey that's bottled in 1998.
You just watch us.
So this is my mind inception of SCN from 1998. Okay. Well, I've been nosing mine intermittently, and it's only
Okay.
getting
It's
more
got good
delicious,
colour
and
to
it's
it.
making me incredibly hungry. I would call this colour Iron Brew Dyed Koi Cup. Which, let me
wondered if
tell
you
you,
were gonna
listeners of the
pick this
podcast,
one.
who know how much I love discussing colour, when I decided that was the colour of this whiskey, we had a long discussion internally whether or not you needed to add the word carp to koi,
Yeah,
or if you would
it
just
was.
say koi. And
Deep-
I would
deep.
say koi cup. standing by.
We met people who would say koi fish and not koi carp, and then people who would say koi.
I've never heard koi carp.
Maybe that's a UK thing then. Maybe it's like saying PIN number or ATM machine.
But that's bad. ATM machine.
But that's her point.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm reinforcing like that's bad.
I tell you, I saw some really lovely koi carp at the Treehouse Brewing on my way up and down from the old Connecticuts. And they were almost exactly this colour.
I was going to say, so about this koi carp coloured whiskey in your, or was it Iron Brew stained koi carp colour?
Dyed, not stained. I'm not a monster.
Died, sorry, died. D-Y-E-D. No
Yes,
need to
not
write
dead.
it.
D-I-E-D.
Yeah.
No koi carps or fish or otherwise were harmed in the production of this liquid.
Exactly. All right, this is, gosh, I could have bet the house on your SCN Whiskey of the Year. So at least talk to us about selection. Talk to us about what drives you with this selection. Again, we're back to talking about your knowledge of this particular distillery.
And again, internally, we know this color. But to our listeners, they still don't know the distillery. So this is a surprise to a number.
It's not a surprise to a single podcast listener who's listened to anything I've said this episode. So not just this pick, but when I am picking casks with you two, when we are talking about samples, I get asked this quite a lot. How do we pick a cask? And sometimes I give a slightly sarky answer because people always want to know how do we know what's going to the US and what's coming to ROW markets. And I sometimes tell them it's done by thumb war. Nobody's once ever questioned me how we've done a thumb war over FaceTime. If I'd said like rock, paper, scissors, that would probably be more, I don't know, feasible. And sometimes I think the answer is I think about what the palates this side and the markets I work with, what they're looking for in a whiskey. Sometimes we have to get a bit unglamorous and it's a little bit to do with pricing. But it also, apparently, I have to sell liquid, so it should be stuff that's, sellable.
We're back to this again.
Is that the technical term?
Yeah, it's our end of year sales meeting, apparently.
It's going to be so awkward when you realise I've kept everything we've ever bottled in a shed. It's a very big shed. And so, it's funny because I think between the three of us we have pretty similar palates. There's not too many things I think we disagree on. There's one or two marks that I don't particularly care for, but I know that you do. One of you will care for more than others. But I do think, and I have to say this, that when we pick stuff, as fun as it would be to just make every release shit Jess likes, I also have to think about not everybody agrees with me on whiskey. That's an insane concept I appreciate. There's nothing, I can hand on heart say, there's nothing we've ever put out to date, including before I worked for Single Cask Nation, that I have hated. There's stuff that doesn't work for my palate, but I can still see the merit in it being a technically sound whiskey. It's just that it's not something I'm going to run to the store and grab. So I think that's a fairly forgivable statement.
That's a fair
This
point.
one, however, I am actively dissuading people from buying because I just don't want anyone else to have it.
Thank goodness our ethos hasn't changed at the end of 2023. Phew.
It'd be really awkward if I was like, so guys, just hit me up. I'll sell you whatever you like, except this one. This one's not for you. You'll hate it. All of you will hate this. I really love this because this fits with a lot of what I really love about this distillery. So I already mentioned it a little bit earlier, that this particular style, and then it's a cask that I haven't had a huge exposure to. And when it was an option for us to have something from this cask, which I'll say in a minute, I started thinking about where else have I had the opportunity to try. So there's not many. I think the first one that came to my mind actually was a Teeling whiskey, which is from Dublin. I was just there at Teeling Distillery. I had a ball. Great distillery. You should check out that liquid.
Just got to mention the last extra.
Yeah, I think
They're a lot of fun. So they have bottled in this cask, and then there's a pair of sister distilleries that I have seen do something, and that is Bunnahabhain and Deanston.
Checks
I
out.
had previously only mentioned Deanston, but our good friend Flo, correspondent of the podcast and #1 fan, unrivaled #1 fan of Deanston, corrected me and said there are Deanston ones in this cask.
Happy Festivus, Flo.
Sorry, Flo. I'm glad you're keeping me on track. And then, yeah, there must be a couple of others, but I have a feeling that this is a cask that I think maybe more people will try. So shall I tell you what cask it's in?
Yes.
Please,
It is
please
in
jump in.
It's in the old Banyuls cask, which is a great...
Like an annual manual.
Yeah, very mysterious Banyuls, which for those of you who don't know, it's a sweet French wine. And I am going to make it my mission this Christmas to try some actual Banyuls wine with some cheeses, I'm thinking.
Yep.
Some cheese on the go.
Is it consumed a la port, Madeira?
Yeah, it's that kind of style, like a dessert
Amontillado?
style.
That sweeter, fortified wine.
Yeah.
So not so much drunk in a red wine glass.
No, this is drunk in a... Well, there are some people in this house, for example, who drink Sauternes as pint measures, but it's not generally recommended.
I'll tell you though,
callback.
in Spain, what did Miguel Martin tell us when we were traveling with him in I almost said Juarez, definitely not Juarez, in Jerez, and he had said, oh no, it wasn't Miguel Martin, it was Luis from or Mario. What shit? I'm forgetting names.
This is a cracking story. Somebody
from
somewhere
from
said
Lestat.
something. Okay.
From Lestat. And I think it was Mario, and he had said, "This is wine. You drink it from a wine glass because it is wine."
But not to you don't.
That's
3/4
would
of a.
suggest you pour it as you would pour wine.
That's someone selling volume.
That's someone selling
right?
volume. Yes.
You should absolutely drink your whiskey from pint glasses. Just a wee pour in the bottom. No, fill it up. Yeah. Hashtag please drink the whole bottle responsibly, but quickly, because we need to sell you more.
So
I feel like people probably don't drink this in those sorts of quantities. It's very sweet, but like I think the trick to all good sweet wines, whether it's a Sauternes, whether it's a Banyuls, whether it's a whatever, is that the sweetness has to be matched by an acidity.
yes.
And so to stop it being just essentially a bottle of delicious jam that gets you drunk. So
Oh, you had me at a bottle of delicious jam. Oh my gosh, my mouth started watering immediately.
so yeah, it's Banyuls. So I don't really think this needs any further introduction. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. How's it been doing as you've been pouring it along the way?
Pretty good.
Not that you are pouring it along the way because you're trying to save it all for
I
yourself.
did have my arm twisted really hard to want to give any of this out. I am, of course, referring to our Westland, the very first ROW Westland, and it is the 9-year-old from Banyuls, which I'm showing the colour to the screen, which none of the podcast listeners can see the colour.
Yeah, the colour's so
except that you all
beautiful.
know it's Iron Brew Dyed Croy Cup.
And I love the new livery. It looks so great in the bottle.
Oh, it does.
It's just super
I'm
nice.
very proud of this. This whole release, I think this 5th release so far, and with no offence to any other previous people we have bowled, I think this is my favourite release across the board of everything put together. I think it's a really strong collection
Wow.
of everything. So that's my favourite of the ROW releases. But the Westland for me is an absolute pinnacle to have bowled. And it's absolutely not doing a disservice to anybody else. Because I already made, like, for example, the Ardnamurchan, my exciting distillery of the year. That's what I'm calling that category, by the way.
ROW.
Which is also an ROW. But I don't want you to think that, like, I've picked this because I think it's the best. It's because it's the one I am most proud of getting all the way to market. To those people who have spoken to me about bringing this Westland in, it was an absolute labour of love. Bringing one cask from Seattle to the UK, let me tell you, it's incredibly stressful. Bringing one little cask on its own.
And there has definitely been a period of time where we've put a couple, if not a few, Westlands into lottery in America. And the question comes up, when's Jess, Westland's #1 fan globally, going to get a cask for ROW? We're working on it. Watch this space. It's coming.
Yeah.
And now it's here. And now it's your SCN pick of 2023.
Yeah. And if I was that kind of person, I could say, I could retire now. I've done a Westland. Until I manage to get those 60s Bowmores, there's really no greater accolade I could win. So
I'm glad there's still something else on your
something to
to-bottle
achieve
list.
for.
50s
To
Mortlock.
strive
Don't
for,
forget
even.
50s Mortlock.
That is very true. I would never forget that. I'm willing to go whatever boss level of, I don't know, cage fighting I need to do to get at those. But I've looked a man square in the face and said, what do I have to do? And he laughed at me. So I will have to rethink my game plan on that one and come back with a new plan for 2024. So
Just to be clear on the podcast, if 10,000 Nation members sent in £1 million or dollars or euros each,
Gosh.
we could make a 1950s Mortlock happen. Just am I right in saying that?
is that not the top tier of next year's Giving Tuesday? No, that's what I heard. It was in the podcast earlier. Were you not listening?
Yeah, do we need to turn Single Cast Nations a 501c to make that happen?
I think we do.
It sounds like paperwork. It'll never work.
Look, the Nation members are incredibly loyal and I enjoy their enthusiasm massively. They've already blackmailed you into producing a 4 times a year comeback of the Jubilee. They could make anything happen.
4 times. Woof.
There's a lot of states in the US. You're going to have to get busy quickly.
All right, Joshua, let's hear. Let's see where this goes.
All right. This was a tough one because I think 2023 was a year of really interesting releases. And interesting in that we had more ROW. We changed our packaging for ROW, which was really nice, really special. We introduced distilleries we hadn't bottled from before. And this falls within that category. This is from a distillery we hadn't bottled from before.
Jason smiles at Joshua. I think I already have my hunchies.
And this is Distillery Direct. We did not acquire this from a broker. We acquired it directly from the distillery.
I think all three of us have made our personal most obvious SCN picks. So let's see if this continues and he doesn't zag in the middle of his zig.
We purchased 2 casks from them.
So far, so good.
But only bottled 1 so far.
So far, so good.
And then the last clue that I'll give is, was it last year? I think it was last year. Last year, they were my favorite non-SCN pick of the year with a single Pinot Noir cask. And this I think talks to the quality of the spirit. That last year I had, I don't even know how old it was. Doesn't even matter how old it was. But it was that single Pinot Noir cask selected by our friend Nando from Execs Whiskey Club. And this one is a single New Charred Oak cask. And this is American single malt. And from cask to cask, the spirit just shines and does things that no one else is doing. And this is what I love. That's why it's one of my criteria. I want to be surprised. I want to be taken off guard. It is our 6-year-old Westward American single malt, New Charred Oak.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal. And it was a weird one. Weird in that, this was one of the few distilleries that we visited where in the U.S., where, Jason, you were not with us. It was me. Mm-hmm. It was Elijah, sadly no longer with Single Cast Nation, and with our good friend Johnny Balderay, a.k.a. Whiskey and Donuts, and being with Miles Monroe, who's the distillery manager there, master distiller. Just getting to be in his company and just, get the feel of the distillery was pretty special. And going through the warehouse, tasting from cask to cask, I'm like, that one's awesome. Okay, that one's awesome. Okay, that one's awesome. And so, this absolutely. It's one that I return to early and often because I like floral. I I just listen. I love it. I'm gonna leave it there. I love it. It knocks my socks off every time. Westward, run, don't walk. Just remarkable liquid.
Yeah. Well said. And to an earlier point I made about pouring at Premier Drams, right? Folk were like, Westward, oh, I've had them. And they're in Seattle, right? And I'd say, no, they're in Portland, Oregon. Oh, okay. You're thinking of Westland? Oh, Westland, Westward. Okay. They're not the same thing? I always thought they were the same thing. Nope. Could I pour you some of this Westward? Yeah, okay. And then they would do the double take.
Yeah.
Like, what did I just drink? They went from, well, if it's not Westland, I can dismiss it, to I've tasted it and I can't dismiss it, right? And I got to see people's eyeballs, right? Where they were like, oh, I'm sipping it and I'm moving on. Oh, but now I'm looking back at the bottle.
You can't, exactly.
What is that?
You can't because whiskey hadn't tasted like this. It just hadn't. These flavors weren't present, and they come through from cask type to cask type. And with this one, it's so nice to hear that people had their first experience of Westward through one of our bottlings, and it's quite true to their style, right? New charred oak. There's really not much else getting in the way. And I like that. I like, it gets back to our earliest days, Jason, when we would pour our Aaron and our Kilhoman and our Ben Riach, and we'd say,
absolutely,
raise your hand. Who's heard of this distillery? And they haven't. Who's had whiskey from this distillery? And they haven't. And then it turns heads and it opens eyes. And we get to do that 12 years later. And, the hope is that we get to do that in 15 years and in 20 years and continue to surprise people. And so
100%.
Really, really proud of this one and our relationship with this and the next cask we're about to release. But as far as 2023 goes, fucking hell, if this isn't my top pick, I don't know what is.
Yeah, it's interesting listening to the two of you, and I'm only going to add on to what you've both said with my own pick. But I remember back in the early days where we would talk about sourcing casks, tasting samples of those casks. And we always said at Single Cask Nation, we want to take what we are sampling from cask and put in bottle for you in the nation.
Yep.
And then it was whether you were the online nation or the retail nation, now the global nation. We wanted to take something special and put it into bottle. Mm-hmm. And in listening to the two of you and knowing my own thoughts on what I'm about to say, we've added a level to this, which is, for Jess, it's being at Westland. It's being at the distillery. It's being in the warehouse. For you, Joshua, it's going out to Westward. It's meeting Miles Monroe. It's tasting from casks. For me, it's going to this distillery. It's tasting with the distillery manager and the master blender and the rickhouse manager and learning their insights about their distillery and now conveying that to the nation and being excited about what else we know about these distilleries. And it's not just the cask that we've selected that's in bottle. You just said this a second ago, right? There might be another cask coming from Westward in 24. We did a cask selection at Westland in November for 2024. I've been discussing the possibility of a cask selection with Nation members with this distillery that I'm about to mention, right? And so it strikes me that we've even moved over these 12 years. We've even moved from it's just the cask to bottle to it's the distillery and the producers and the people and all of that making its way through the cask and into bottle. And so, do you want to say it out loud at the same time. You know what I've selected as my SCN of the year.
I'm ready. I know what it is. It can't be any other, because I know where your heart lies, and I know who you've spoken with. And if this Westward cask didn't exist, it may be my runner-up. It may be my runner-up. And this was a cask you selected without me initially, if I'm not mistaken.
Initially, I brought this to you.
You said,
as,
I think this is it.
This is our next from this distillery. But I did bring you 3 samples.
You did bring me 3, but you were like,
of the style.
But it's got to be this one. I'm like, of course it's that one. It's like, it couldn't be any other one.
And you selected blind the one that I thought was the winner out of those samples as well. So I didn't lead the witness, even though, yes. So our Virginia Distillery Company 5-year-old STR cask. And again, to the point that both of you are making, when you spend time at the distillery and you're tasting through things that aren't even up for selection, I think this is an experience for both of you from RØDE and Merkin as well. When you're just simply learning about the distillery profile and you're learning about what they're doing internally for their own distillery, for their own brands, I think it adds, it's value added to the selections that we're then making for the nation. And the 3 of us are all talking about the exact same thing when it comes to loving a distillery and loving the people and making a selection and sharing that selection. In some instances, I'm not doing a very good job of selling this VDC, right? I'm keeping this internally.
Yeah, we're not sold out. We're not pushing it hard. We're okay.
Right.
When it sells out, it sells out.
And if, a 6-pack makes it to my house while it's working, it's on being sold out, then that'll be tickety-boo. So, yeah, just a cracker. Just a great, great drinker and one I love. And yes, we're already talking about what might 2024 look like for a VDC selection.
Do I think that's really interesting that the 3 of us independently have picked? I would definitely call myself, and I think you two as well, predominantly of the whiskey at large with all its various spellings, Scotch drinkers.
Absolutely,
Single malt Scotch whiskey drinkers, and yet independently the 3 of us have come up with 3 American single malts.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I definitely, for all of my love of Western, my first love is really Scotch whiskey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's just very interesting to me that we've bottled a ton of really good Scotch whiskey, and yet us, the American company, have actually just ignored all of that. It obviously comes with a massive caveat emptor. Like I say, and I said earlier, it doesn't mean that anything else we bottled we don't love, we're not passionate about. I just think it's really interesting that we've picked 3 American single malts, all of which are still in single-digit ages. So again, maybe helping to dispel that myth that whiskey needs to be 10 years and older to be any good. And here we are talking about a totally new category that's growing and emerging with some really exciting, very passionate people behind the liquid that's coming out. And obviously it has won us over, and I think we're helping to win the nation members over by occasionally selling them a bottle or putting it up in a lottery and not giving them any of it. To me, I think it's very interesting because the scene for American single malt here in the UK is obviously very different to how it is in the US. People are still a little bit suspicious of the concept, but putting liquid to somebody and say, well, just try this, and then we can talk about what American single malt means, or we can talk about what whiskey that comes from not Scotland means. Let's first of all fundamentally, do you like this or not? That's the first starting point we have here, and from there we can go into the technicalities, the production, the differences in mash bills, casks, cask filling strengths, all these little number details that as geeks we love to kind of sit and think about and get really lost down the rabbit hole of those sort of details. Fundamentally, do you like it or not is the question at the end of the day. And it seems very interesting to me that the 3 of us, without conferring, have all picked I mean, I guess maybe it's a bit biased because it's bottled by us, so we sort of knew what we were doing there. But I think it's interesting to me
I mean,
that we've come up with 3 of these.
Your point is a very good one because we've bottled some amazing Scotch whiskies.
Yeah, we have.
Like back to Ardnamurchan, right?
Back to Ardnamurchan. But we've had a ton of cool stuff, and we didn't even get to grains. Like, we've put out an absolute banger of a little Invergordon just in this release. There's been some really nice stuff. Yeah, there's a whole raft of stuff that we have put out, and it's just funny to me that we've settled on quite an absolute niche of a niche of the whiskey world.
But I also wonder, you know, none of us named runners up. All 3 of us were very good and went straight to our selection. But our US retail double cask Inchgour was my runner up here. And so the thing for me is,
You and me both.
and I think you may have just alluded to this, Jess, Scotch is such a known category and commodity right now. And yes, it's Inchgour, and maybe not everybody's talking about Inchgour the way not everybody's been talking about Dalyuen, but we've really been championing Dalyuen. Yeah, I think when it comes to Scotch, I think it's easy to say, oh yeah, I can imagine that was your best of the year. It's Scotch, right? I think there's something to be said for, and I had this thing in America, or we released this thing from America that really needs your attention. Yeah. And I think you would be rewarded to pay it attention and give it a taste. And I think that's what Steve Hawley's been doing with the commission, the American Single Malt Whiskey Commission. I think it's what Chris Riesbeck was doing when he was still with Westland and he was part of the commission. And then you talk to these producers at American Single Malt distilleries. They are excited, they are passionate, they are enthusiastic, they are excited to take their product, obviously across the US, but also global, and turn heads. And it's really exciting to be at the forefront of it. It's not even ratified yet. And here we are sitting here saying each of us has an American Single Malt Whiskey as their SCN release of the year. So I think it is exciting. We've said that throughout the course of 2023 on this podcast, that the rise of American Single Malt Whiskey is very exciting. And we are sitting here at the forefront of this movement. Yep. I'm really digging that. So I'm going to continue to champion this stuff, and I'm honored to have the 2 of you along for the ride, and the 3 of us are championing this stuff and believe in it wholeheartedly.
And I'm going to continue to reluctantly share this with people that I like.
Exactly.
And I will.
And other people insist on trying it.
I'm happy to share this with people that I like, Jess. Man, so that's it. That is our 2023 year in review.
If anyone knows where the missing 6 months are, please send a note to info@singlecasknation.com. I don't remember anything after coming out the wilderness at the end of June.
I tell you, if I had to choose, you know, favorite people to work with in 2023, it'd be you 2.
There you go.
There you go.
That could have got really awkward really quick.
Yeah, here come the runners up.
Imagine if it was like, it's one of you, but I'm not telling you which.
And to be fair, one of you won the category, one of you was second runner-up.
Second runner-up. Because I liked myself even over you.
It wouldn't be an incomplete list otherwise, would it?
All right.
Well,
there we go.
Well, there we go. I guess it's time to toast our glasses to our favorite episode, to our favorite event, to our favorite non-SCN whiskey, to our most impressive distillery of the year, to our favorite Single Cask Nation whiskey of the year, to our favorite Single Cask Nation employee of the year.
Beautiful.
Here's to
all right.
A very good 2024 for us all.
Absolutely. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, Jess and Joshua, everyone that joined us in 2023. Keep listening. Here comes 2024.
Woohoo.
2 elephant, 3 elephant, 4 elephant, 5 elephant.
Okay.
Those felt
Those
like
were
quick
all-
elephants from Jason there.
Those are our normal behind the scenes elephants.
He's
Where
been
we just
quick.
get shit done.
He's been quick these days.
Yeah. You're enough inner circle now, Jess, that when we do a guest, like 1 elephant, 2 you're inner circle, so you get 1 elephant, 2 elephant, 3 elephant.
Okay.
Don't listen to Jess. He's just showing off. I'll show Jess how fast I
level.
can count elephants.
I can say the word elephant really fast. Much faster than I can say the word Mississippi. Get that up your ass.
Yeah, we spell Mississippi 5 times in every episode.
Yeah. MISSISSIPPI. MISSISSIPPI. MISSISSIPPI.
Could you imagine if we did that to guests? So we spell Mississippi 5 times so that when Joshua gets all the files, he can zip them together.
We should start spelling encyclopedia together. ENCYCLOPEDIA. ENCYCLOPEDIA.
This is one of those weird spelling bee things you guys are really into that I've never understood.
I think it's the season as well, is it not? Is it season for spelling
Is
bee
there
on
a
ESPN?
season for spelling? Of course there is.
Oh, very much so.
What a
Jess.
stupid...
Here,
Because you
let-
need people at home with fuck all else happening on their TV and they don't want to speak to their family. So you put on children spelling really wild words.